Happy Friday. It is a cloudy day today. It's supposed to start raining this evening. It's going to rain all weekend. Maybe even as far as Tuesday. So, looking forward to that. Nothing's more fun than walking dogs in the rain. I had a very unproductive conversation with Library last night. But once again, using the stupidity of Library to make a point is often worthwhile. As I was leaving, Library made the statement that if you can carry, he was making a point out of the 76 rounds. He was making a point, guys. And his point was that if you could carry 76 rounds in Kansas, I think it was, then you should be able to carry 8 rounds into a police station in Oklahoma. And there's a couple of problems with that. First of all, I don't think anybody ever said that every time, if the bad result, oh hey, there's a skunk running across the road. I don't know if you can see it. Crossing to my side. Good job, skunk. I don't think anybody's ever said that in order to correct a potential problem, it has to result in a negative consequence every time. So, for example, speed limits are in place because there is a correlation between speeding, between going fast and getting into an accident. Your braking distances and times increase. The amount of time you have to react to whatever's coming up ahead of you decreases. If you talk to anybody, any insurance provider for automobiles, they have all the statistics. Speed increases your likelihood of getting into an accident, causing harm, being harmed, etc. So just because you are able to speed once or twice or 3 times or 20 times or 1,000 times doesn't mean that speeding is safe. And just because you go into a police station one time with 76 rounds doesn't mean that the next guy who does it is going to be safe about it. So that's one thing. It doesn't have the harm doesn't have to happen all the time for people to want to legislate against it. And we know states can legislate on firearms, controlling how they are carried in the state, controlling how many rounds they could have in their magazines, things like that. We know the states have those powers because as of yet, the Supreme Court hasn't said they can't. I know everybody's thinking, but the Second Amendment says, and I understand that, but that's not the state of the law at this point. Could be, would be, should be, but it isn't. So if Kansas does not have a prohibition on carrying more than, let's say, 8 rounds or something like that into a police station, that's great for Kansas. But that doesn't say anything about what Oklahoma can or should do. Number one, Oklahoma is a different state with different demographics, different desires, different population, different needs, different history. Oklahoma is a sovereign state. It has the power, the authority to write any law that it wants to. unless it's been expressly prohibited by the 14th Amendment, one of the other amendments, or Congress has exercised complete control in a particular field, etc., etc. Within a few narrowly defined exceptions, Oklahoma can write its own laws. It doesn't matter what Kansas did. And also, you have to wonder about the optics are. If you think you want to use one positive experience or one not negative, I guess technically, not even a positive experience, just a not negative experience of carrying 76 rounds into a police station in Kansas as your reasoning that you should be able to carry 76 rounds into a police station in Oklahoma, well, maybe you should pick better optics. Because the news story didn't throw it into a positive spin. It actually threw a negative spin. And the question becomes, how many rounds is too many rounds? That's a great question. I think reasonable minds can reasonably differ, but I think we run into the same ideas as, again, with speed limits. Is 35 miles an hour the right speed for it? Why not 34? Why not 36? Well, at some point, you do have to pick a cutoff point. There is a time where you're just going to have to pick one. 34 miles an hour might only be marginally safer than 35, and 36 miles an hour may only be marginally less dangerous than 35, or more dangerous than 35. But at some point, you just got to pick. You just got to put a number down. If we use Library's logic, then why not bring 100 rounds? Why not bring 1,000 rounds? Why not bring 1,000,000 rounds? Why not bring a delivery truck full of fertilizer, and park that out in front of the police station? Why not? While reasonable minds can reasonably differ, we all kind of start to get the idea of when it becomes absurd at some point. And if someone is too biased by their particular affinity for, let's say, firearms, then they're going to draw that cutoff line, that reasonable cutoff line, a lot higher than, say, somebody who's anti-gun, who's going to drop much lower. But I think just the way the article treated it, the way that other Second Amendment, pro-Second Amendment people have responded to it, should alert you that it has passed beyond the realm of a reasonable number of rounds to carry for self-defense, etc., into an absurd number of rounds. And where the particular number is, I don't know. I mean, I've never personally carried more than one full magazine on me in the firearm. But I mean, I could see, like, I don't think many people would have a problem with one extra magazine. Would two be okay? If one was fine, would two be okay? I don't know. I can't speak for everybody, but once you get into having 4 extra magazines, most people, the bulk of people, have seemed to respond that it is unreasonable. And not being able to see that, not being able to wrap your head around it, shows how stupid Library is. And I'm bringing this up. This is all going somewhere, believe it or not. I'm bringing all this up because Library was trying to convince me last night that he's not a fucking retard. When everything he does, everything he says, every time he opens his mouth, idiocy falls out. You're gonna poop, aren't you? He's gonna poop. So I'm gonna make this fast. Number one, you can't convince people you're not stupid if every time you act, you get a bad result. You do the wrong thing, you say the wrong thing. Hold on. Oh, fuck it. You'll just get pocket time. All right, now that we've gotten that out of the way. So every time he does something, he just shows how stupid he is. And my point with that, he likes to say that I'm just making assumptions. You know, I say you're stupid because you pick bad optics, you audit in a children's section, you hang out with sovereign citizens, you carry 76 rounds on your belt, you go to a man's house in the dead of night to intimidate him armed with another man. Talk my ass. Nobody in the world's gonna believe you. And you're a liar, so it doesn't really matter what you say. Oh, what else did he do? He's done so many stupid things. The bond condition thing, spreading rumors and misinformation about the bond, just silly things. So he's saying that I'm making assumptions because I don't know that he's stupid, right? All these stupid things he's done, but I just don't know that he's stupid. And he has excuses for all of them. Stupid people always do. Stupid people and liars always have excuses. But here's the thing. I'm making the assumption that in about an hour or two, depending on when sun rises, I'm making an assumption the sun's going to rise. And I have pretty solid reasons why. It's not a baseless assumption, but it's still an assumption. I know the sun has risen every other day. I know the earth is a oblate spheroid. It's not a globe, but it's roundish, spinning around on its axis, orbiting the sun. And these things generally mean that the sun's going to rise. And we know roughly when. Every day. It's an assumption. Because it hasn't happened yet. I don't know. I don't have like 3 hours from now, I'll know the sun rose or not. But until then, it's just an assumption. But it's a solid assumption based on facts. So if somebody is spitting facts out at you and you say, well, that's just your opinion, or that's just an assumption, it's really not. It's really not. I mean, you could say that it's a fairly weak argument. It's not based on a lot of data or something like that, but it's not just an assumption. And facts aren't just opinions. And again, I'm getting somewhere with all this. So the reason why we have all this evidence that Library is not only retarded, but he's also a liar, is because Library has placed it all out on the internet for the whole world to see. Everywhere he goes, everything he does that has been broadcast to the world shows how fucking stupid and how much of a liar he is. And what I'm saying to him is he really needs to shut the fuck up. Today is Shut the Fuck Up Friday. And all that buildup was for, if you open your mouth You can make an ass out of yourself. You can make yourself look like a liar and a retard. You can incriminate yourself. So in honor of Shut the Fuck Up Friday, I'm going to run it down again. There's two guys who do it, a couple, the way they call them the Pop Brothers or something. They do it way better than I do. They have a shtick down. But if you get pulled over, or if a cop approaches you, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. If you get pulled over, their advice is to ask the cop why you were detained. Maybe put him on the spot. Maybe you get to testify that that's why he said you were detained later. But again, it doesn't really matter. Cops can lie. My advice to you is just shut the fuck up. Any opportunity that you think you have to talk generally increases the chance that you'll fuck something up. Because it's always the cop's desire, it's always his goal to get you to talk. Because if you talk, the more you talk, the more comfortable you get talking, the more you want to talk, the more likely you are to incriminate yourself. So if you're detained, or if a cop approaches you in a consensual encounter, shut the fuck up. If he arrests you, I really recommend the only thing you say is, I want a lawyer before you ask me any questions. I demand a lawyer before you ask me any questions. That's all I recommend you say. Obviously, if you're in a state where you have to ID, speak to a local attorney before you do any of this. Always speak to a local attorney, because local laws may vary. And if you're required by statute to ID, then I suggest that you get that advice from a local attorney and you follow his advice or her advice. But otherwise, shut the fuck up. If you get arrested, demand an attorney. And the reason why I ask you to demand an attorney is because they can't start talking to you again. They can't start asking you questions again until they give giving you an attorney. And it helps people who have trouble shutting the fuck up. Because if you say, I want to remain silent, and you don't demand the attorney when you're arrested, and then like a dumbass, you start talking again, well then you've given up your right to remain silent. You know, the cops are having a conversation in the front seat, talking about how terrible the conversation, or how terrible the crime was, and you start jumping in and correcting the facts that they're misstating on purpose to get you to talk, to get you to waive your Fifth Amendment privileges. They're not questioning you, they're just talking amongst each other. I mean, they do sneaky shit, guys. They do sneaky shit. Their whole goal is to get you to talk. So demand an attorney. If you're arrested, demand an attorney. I don't have an attorney, but I don't consent to any questions until I have an attorney present. I demand an attorney. That's my advice for you today. It's a great way to keep them from getting you to talk once you've demanded an attorney. Anyway, that's my Shut the Fuck Up Friday story. I'm sticking to it. Thank you for watching. Like I said, it's probably going to rain all weekend, so I mean, if there's dry spots and I'm out walking, I'll try to make a Ramblin video. But if not, well, maybe I'll take some time to not watch mandatory continuing legal education, and I'll instead watch some auditors do auditing things. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.